Pink Dress Effect podcast with Shannon
and Kim.
We are here this morning. I keep saying this morning. You might be watching at lunchtime, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Behind the velvet rope, power, silence, and the price of speaking out. And we're really going to focus on the P. Diddy trial. And kind of, it's been week one.
Yeah.
And we're not going to focus so much on the trial, but really, kind of Cassie Ventura, the victim, right, in all this. She testified this week, and it was pretty interesting to listen to some of the things that she's gone through.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
It's been crazy, and the response of the public.
Yeah, and how. It's a trial, right? Nobody's guilty yet, right?
Yeah, we're not here to litigate it.
No, but we do have an opinion, I guess, in some ways. But also, right, to be brave enough to speak about something that you're so ashamed of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she said that, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, but how that power, although during this time, right, some of the stuff that she participated in, she's not proud of.
Yeah.
But how brave that is to be able to talk about things that you're not proud of doing.
Yeah.
And how healing that she's talked about, like it's healing for her.
It is. And we're going to have a whole episode on shame later on in the probably in June by the time we get to it. But one of the things that to combat shame is to speak about it.
Yeah.
And it takes away the sting of that. And it is healing.
And I also think that, right, all of us have things in our past that we're not proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just have to forgive yourself and move on. But man, some of that testimony, I mean, people were being on her.
Well,
multiple and drinking it.
It's not the first time we've heard this.
I know,
so
but
I mean, apparently it's a thing.
They said she couldn't even breathe because her mouth was.
Yeah. I
guess it's not my thing. I'm just saying.
It's not my thing, but it's definitely some people's thing.
Yeah.
And that's hard. I mean, that's hard. I mean, I cannot imagine to be in her shoes and to have to tell that. And, for the whole world.
For the whole world, right?
Yeah.
And
to critique and to judge.
And it's a federal court where cameras are prohibited. Mm-hmm. So really you're just hearing testimony. Well, you're seeing the testimony through AI, right? I mean, I listened to a couple of it. It's her words generated through AI, right? Because there's no cameras in there and there's reporters and stuff. But there are, folks in there, obviously taking notes and
they
and
are.
so on and so
I've been
forth.
watching The Breakfast Club.
Yeah. And what do they talk?
Well, it's just they have someone who's there every day and they come back and she reports on what happened and gives a little bit more nuance because she's physically present.
And I
there.
actually listened to the transcript, so her actual words. And, I guess when you hear about some of the things that were done during those freak-offs, it's pretty crazy. And as a reminder, I'm just going to read exactly what P. Diddy is accused of. It's racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution, which, right, is illegal, and going over state lines, right? That I think that's where the transportation and all that stuff. So it's pretty interesting. And most folks have seen the video of her in that hotel where he kicked you. You had mentioned before, there would be more uproar if someone kicked a dog.
Right. Everybody would be up in arms, I think, at a greater level if it was an animal that was kicked.
And I think once people did see that video, though, you're like, holy cow. I mean, he treated her like she was nothing but trash.
He did, and he got backlash then. So it's interesting now to see the dynamic shift.
A little bit,
and more of the victim blaming now.
Right. And I think for me, like listening to some of her testimony, she willingly did a lot of it. She did.
That's what people are saying.
But she did. Yeah. I listened to her transcript. She willingly did it. Now, the one I was listening to this morning on the way to the show, she actually, they had went to dinner. They were broken up. She said it was great. Dinner was great. We were laughing, kind of flirting. She actually said, but it was okay. It was good. But she was with her her husband now, but they weren't married. Mm-hmm. And he came into the house and then he raped her on the floor. And she told him no. Mm-hmm. But he raped her. But what was interesting after that, she then has relations with her one more time that were consensual that she was okay with doing. And I think that it's
because people don't understand trauma.
Right. And I think that's where I've struggled a little bit too, because you're like, okay, wait a minute, like especially as she aged. Now, when
Yeah.
she was young, I have a niece that's 21, 22, kind of at that age where a lot of the stuff was happening to her.
Right.
And then you've got this almost 40-year-old man. That's a huge age difference. And so when I look at my own niece and my own child, who's the same age, and then you think about someone who's twice the age almost.
Right.
And the money and the influence, and I want to be a star and I want to be a singer. Oh my gosh, he thinks I'm amazing.
Right.
Even though some of those things are awful and I might be uncomfortable, how being so young and remember your frontal cortex, it's developing still. Like, what do they say, 25, 26, whatever. So these people, yes, they're adults, but
so you have
still
more compassion for the younger Cassie than the...
I do. But then I think I shared this with you. I mean, I'm going to say it right. I was never physically abused in a relationship, but I know I was in a relationship and I was in my 30s. And I remember specifically saying to myself, I only have to deal with this. If I live till I'm in my 60s, I don't have to deal with this for like 30 more years. I remember thinking that, and I wasn't being physically abused, but I was so unhappy and I felt so stuck and trapped. So I can't imagine what she must have felt. So I think of her from that perspective.
Yeah.
Like, wow, if I felt like that without being physically abused, but it was more emotional, what did she feel like? And maybe, yes, those things were all awful and she shouldn't have done it, but she might have felt the same way as me, stuck, confused. I don't know what to do.
See, and I always go back to, it's probably my background in behavioral health. So I don't tend to look at a person's actions in a silo. So I don't know her background or her family or any of the dynamics of things that she may have experienced in life. But all of that can absolutely impact how she was able to get into this situation.
And she probably couldn't find her way out.
And she may not have had the tools to get, well, she didn't. She did not have the tools for many years to get herself out.
Probably as she aged and maybe just got so tired. I mean, clearly she was trying to get away from him in that hotel. And she said that in the trial, she said that, they had just finished a freak off. And she said the longest they went was 4 days. 4 days. And then she would spend recuperating, and she talked about, having UTIs and how painful they are, and then being forced to have sex during that time and how awful and it hurt her.
Right. So even though, because she talked about the willingness and, not wanting him to be with other people, and that plays into...
She loved him.
Right. So that plays into, it's, the desire to please him at the cost of herself.
Right. And she also said that she thought they were in a monogamous relationship. She was young, but they weren't. And then she was, I guess at some point, doing her thing too. But he was she said she was jealous.
Yeah.
But he was as well. And I don't think he wanted her to be with anybody else. And so then threats and all that stuff happened.
Yeah.
And then she said there was one gentleman she was seeing. They were broken up, but she was seeing. And she was afraid for not only her safety, but his safety. So she broke it off with him because she was afraid that he would be hurt by Diddy.
Yeah.
So she was protecting somebody that she cared about.
Yeah. And she was, I'm sure, quite aware of what he was, allegedly capable of doing.
Allegedly capable of, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, they said the baby oil, like, woo. They were having a good time, I suppose. But a lot of it, right, she said in the testimony that I was listening to, talked a lot about, did you feel anything? Well, no, because she was so drugged. She was drugged. Now, she took a lot of those drugs on her own.
You say that, and that's what people say. So, and
those were her words.
Well, I know. Yeah. You can do something willingly. You can engage in bad behavior or difficult behavior. You can do all those things willingly.
Right.
It doesn't mean that your mindset was in a place to make rational decisions.
Right.
So yes, you can be influenced by the power and the money and all of those things, especially when you're young. And the next thing you know, you're in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
so I have compassion
and
for
then
her there.
And then, allegedly he was blackmailing her. So
with videos. I think they had videos.
So
yeah.
Then at what point, and when you're young, the thought of all this coming out.
She's trying to be a singer, right?
Yeah.
A professional singer. And, and that's what she said on the testimony too, that he would blackmail her with the videos, sex videos. And she said he just wanted to hurt me because she was with had a new boyfriend.
Yeah.
He wanted to hurt me, and that was his way of being able to hurt me. And control, right? It's control. It's still control.
Yeah, this whole situation is control. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting because it's only been week 1.
Yeah.
And it's her testimony, but then now going into week 2, there are other folks that are going to be coming forward for the defense. And so it'll be interesting how it plays out, like on all those charges against him, right? This is like, okay, it's clear she was abused, and then you go read.
Yeah, because that's not disputed. It's only disputed her willingness,
right.
The coercion part of it.
And then allowing, her to get her story out. And then, which I thought this was really sweet. So she's married, right? And she's 8 months pregnant. So like, my God, we, as women, whatever, you talk about, like, you think about the vulnerability of her just as a woman going and doing this, and now she's 8 months pregnant, and the health of her and the baby, right? I mean, I think about that and how stressful this past week must have been, and even probably going into this week. But her husband released a beautiful statement. It was just,
and it shut down all of the people who want to project their own feelings onto him.
Yes and no, because I've read a lot of comments. Those comments, and a lot of the comments that I've read, because
they're still doubling down on those.
There are a little bit, because now this is just stuff I've read. I haven't heard. So look, I mean, the other stuff was I heard the testimony that she was actually picked up the phone, and to talk to her now husband. I don't believe they were married then. Well, she was actually having sex with P. Diddy, and so there's that. And then,
but what does that have to do with her husband's response now?
No, I mean, I think it's beautiful, like right. But I think people are saying like, ew, like, they're kind of like, oh, he's going to divorce her eventually now that he's hearing all this stuff. But he was a bodyguard, I believe. No, a personal trainer. I'm sorry. And so I'm sure he had access to some of this. But I also think that, right, in life, you can have people, look, we're best friends. Like, you have people in your life that become safe to you, I think, right? That you trust. Like, I trust you with everything, Kim. And so it's like, no matter how bad it is, I believe you're not going to judge me. You may not agree.
Right.
And you may call me out because you're like, I love you and what you're doing is not okay.
Right.
But you're not going to leave me as my friend. And so I think sometimes in life we have these people that come into our lives, and maybe he became her safe person and vice versa. And so he knows all the dirt, but he loves her anyway.
Yes, because, we are so, our society is so big on just canceling people.
It's terrible.
Because you do something that doesn't meet societal norms. But
knowing darn well you got stuff that you're not proud of.
And I always look at it, we're both Christian, and I look at it from a God perspective. I mean, God doesn't, you can do the worst crime that you can kill somebody and ask for forgiveness, and you still have it. But our society does not have any compassion and empathy for people.
And people
just
can
judge
change.
and condemning, And so I think it's honorable that her husband was willing to speak out. And so all these people saying all these things about how he should feel. He said, no, let me tell you how I feel.
He's proud of her.
He's proud of her. He loves her.
And isn't that what we want?
Yes,
I don't know, as in a partner, I want my partner, despite my imperfections, to be proud of me.
I don't think he would have, assume he wouldn't have married her if
he knew. He knew a lot of this stuff from what I'm hearing, right? I mean, but I don't know. For me, I want someone who is proud of me, but also knows that I'm not perfect and that I might hurt them and they might hurt me, but that we can stop each other's back.
Everybody has, like, what do you call them?
Skeletons?
I was going to call them demons. Everybody's got demons in the closet.
Well, I call them demons. Jesus, Lord.
But
everybody does.
Look, do you want your skeletons rattling around on the TV screen or on the radio? You don't. Everybody has them, but yet we sit in judgment of other people as if we don't.
If you read those comments, you're like, oh my gosh. But then you're right. As far as a relationship, you think about all that stuff that's happening to her, because a lot of women too. I mean, men and women. Women are hard. Women are hard.
Maybe harsher than the men. Yes.
Because I guess they might put themselves in that position and be like,
I would never do that.
Yeah, but then
right,
but then the men are like, I mean, that I'm reading, it's like, oh, he's gonna divorce her if she's has this baby.
Yeah.
Because I think she settled with the hotel last week for $10 million, and then whatever P. Diddy for 20-something million. So there's a lot of money at stake too. And I'm like, can't people just love people? But people don't look at it.
That's the whole.
We're all jaded.
Where everybody's so jaded, and people don't even believe in love anymore, hardly.
Right,
So,
like what real love is, right?
Yeah,
They say, right, it's an action.
Unconditional.
It's not a
love.
feeling. It's a love is,
Yes.
kind, love it, all the
Yeah.
non-judgmental and all that stuff. And he's doing all of that. I mean,
And we're spending so much time talking about that rather than about this man who had power and position and money and the choices he made and the luxuries he had because of his status.
Yeah.
Because I just refuse to believe that all of Hollywood knew nothing about these shenanigans going on.
Of course they did, and they're probably all up in the videos.
I mean, and it was perfectly fine until it came out.
It's and it's just like that Epstein guy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, it's same stuff.
There's a lot of look. They say, the Hollywood is, kind of, filled with bad stuff. I don't know that. But I think sometimes when people have power and position and wealth, they either get bored or all that money makes them feel like the rules do not apply to them.
Right.
And they can do whatever they want to do.
Crazy.
And, oftentimes that's the case.
But you're right. And I think the focus this week has been on her testimony. So people are forgetting, they're looking at like what she's endured, like, oh my gosh, whatever. She kept going back, but not to stop and think, yes, he's only been accused. He's not guilty yet, but they have so much evidence against him.
Yeah.
And
well,
just
all I need to see is the video. The video, to me.
Oh, that was terrible.
You see the video, and I know it's a separate thing, but that's to me speaks to character.
Oh,
and
the way
that, and I have seen domestic violence.
Yep.
As a child, seen that, and it is something. It's something about a human being have so little regard for another human being that they would beat you like you're nothing.
Yeah, and she said that sometimes even when she was, she said in her testimony that even when he was raping her, that down her floor, that his eyes like turned black. Like she's like he wasn't even there. Like, right? So like, I don't know. And she said that multiple times.
Yeah, and you got to think about domestic violence victims. And people are saying, why didn't she leave? Why didn't she leave?
Oh, it's not that.
So if you really do,
why didn't I leave?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
it's never just that easy.
I think it's emotional. And again, I wasn't even being hit. Like I was just so unhappy and stuck. I was going to endure it for another 30 years till I died. Like, I mean, this is crazy. I look back and be like, I can't believe I said that. So a woman like
you
her,
didn't have the dynamic of control.
No.
Because the dynamic of control
that was more me.
And manipulation is different. It's a psychological thing.
Yeah, my situation was far different. But I'm just saying, if I felt like that, in my situation, I can't even imagine what she must have felt like.
Yeah, and I was listening to this one gentleman, and he was saying it takes 7 reported incidents of domestic violence before a victim will leave on average. And those are the reported ones before they leave, never mind all of the experiences they've had.
And then they're constantly trying to cover it with makeup.
And then they're at risk. The moment they make that choice to leave, their life is at risk.
Right.
That's the greatest opportunity for them to lose their life.
And they will, right? Those guys, men, I mean, women do it too, but I know it's a lot of men. They'll come back, and you hear a lot of stories. They came back, they can't handle seeing her with another man or any of that stuff.
Control.
The loss of control.
Yeah. So I lose control in that way, but I can't control whether or not you exist.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just have a great deal of compassion for her, and I admire the courage, and I think that we should have so much more compassion for people, that the things that they do in life don't define them for the entirety of their life, and allow people to grow and to change, and don't just condemn them and judge them, because when people are doing that, they're doing it to make themselves feel better.
And she's a mother. She's got 2 little girls, and
she's moved on with her life.
And she's pregnant with a 3rd. And you think about, I mean, obviously it's AI speaking her words, but those words to me listening is not someone who's proud of what her choices.
Mm-hmm.
Like she just got sucked in, but he had no right to hit her like that and no right to treat her like she was less than.
Yeah, and what about all of the enablers?
Oh my gosh, there's so many of them, and I think
they're coming out now telling their interviews and the bodyguards and different people who were around,
and
who
nobody
saw
said
things.
anything. Nobody, everybody let it happen, and they released. I don't know if it was this week. This is the week that I heard it.
Mm-hmm.
There's audio of him in jail speaking in code to people. Like if you he's meaning something else, because they can use that as evidence or whatever. And it was interesting listening to some of. You'll have to go back and listen to some of that. You're just like, this guy.
Well, I mean, look, how old is he?
I think he's in his 40s.
In his 40s, or I don't know how old, but he's whatever his age.
Because she's 38 and they're 17 years different. So
whatever
his
age, he has
maybe 50s.
He has gotten away with his behavior for a very long time.
Yeah, money.
And so he has learned some skills, apparently, to not have that behavior be known.
Yeah, and there's a lot of women coming. There's some girls who are coming out, and they're going by one girl's Mia, I think, and Jane. They're kind of not allowing their identity to be released. They're as a victim. So I'm sure this is just the beginning. It's going to get really bad.
Well, that's how it always starts with these cases. It starts with one, and then other people start coming forward.
Yep. And then once all this other evidence comes with the prostitution and just all of that and the hiring of all of that and stuff. It's
the escorts,
I don't know. It doesn't sound good. I mean, obviously I'm not an attorney. I'm not a judge or anything like that. But I feel like the court of public opinion has definitely convicted him, don't you think? I mean, I think so.
I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. I think, it's very interesting. And I think even, in the Black community, when you look at powerful men, you look at Bill Cosby, or you look at R. Kelly, and now you look at P. Diddy, and you look at that, I believe that there are still people who will say, and I've heard this before, so if you have a white male, you have a Hugh Hefner, you have someone else who's engaging in questionable behavior.
And that was questionable.
Right. And they're not, no one comes after them and allow that behavior, then people want to stick up for a P. Diddy or an R. Kelly. And that's a separate issue.
Because if the white man was able to get away with it.
Because the white man got away with it, so why are you coming after him?
Because that kind of behavior, we can do a whole nother episode on the Playboy Mansion. When you start hearing this stuff now, and the women are like our age now coming out, and the way they were treated, and again, they allowed it, but it's still, again, powerful men, and they're young.
Girls.
They're young, 18, 19, 20 years old. I mean, you're with, like I said, I was with a couple of my nieces, and you watch them, and they think they're grown, and I guess they are legal and everything, but they're really not.
All this money flowing around, and celebrity, and,
and
they're very...
impressionable at that.
They're very impressionable.
I mean...
So, I don't know. I think there's still support for P. Diddy, and to me, they're two separate issues. And if you engage in any behavior that is questionable, illegal, then you should be held accountable for that behavior.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just the fact that, okay, somebody else did it too.
Right.
And they got away with it. That to me is a whole separate argument.
Yeah, but what comes out in the dark always comes out, right? In the light. So, I mean, he might be in his 50s now, but, I mean, it sounds like he's going down. I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch the rest of this. But I think, to your point, really the focus of this, yes, we were going to talk about it, but just that victim and why, as a culture and society, we victim shame, and why women are so...
We're tough on each other.
We are.
Man.
We are.
We are.
But listen,
it's a competition, I think.
I don't know.
You look, she's
she
an
can
attractive
have all that.
woman,
She's beautiful.
and just let's if you're not already torn down, let me tear you down just a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think that's what it came down to. Yeah, right. Tearing her down, and it doesn't matter that she's beautiful. That doesn't matter. I mean, if she
is a human being
with emotions, real emotions, and
yes.
I don't know. I do go back to her husband. It's so sweet, but I know people who are like, he's going to divorce her. And
I
I'm
don't
like,
believe that. I don't. His statement was so beautiful. I don't.
I feel like
it.
he really loves her.
Yeah.
Like he loves his wife. And you know what? And maybe that's also part of the society's problem.
Yeah.
Not enough people are vocal about loving their wives and husbands. Like that's a beautiful thing. Like if you don't think it's a beautiful thing, you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
Right?
So she may have had the experiences in life, but she may have won the lottery
She might have
in
because
her relationship with her husband.
Right, and that's I think what most people desire.
Yeah.
So maybe people are jealous of that too. Wow, she's got a man that knows she's been through mud and hell and back.
And still loves her.
And he still loves her.
Yeah. Because sometimes the people who have been through hell, they end up being some of the most empathetic, compassionate, loving people because they've been through hell.
Right.
So, you know.
And she's not going to take him for granted, I'm sure.
Yes.
She knows what hell's like, right? So she's like, I've got this great guy, and I'm going to let him love me the way that I deserve to be loved.
And I'm going to appreciate every moment of having him in my life. Yeah. So, I don't know. You know, we humans, we're
a tough crowd.
We're a tough crowd.
Well, then you've got the keyboard warriors and all that stuff, right? Everybody's just feeling comfortable about saying whatever they want to say.
Yeah. Yeah, because even I didn't see when he came out with his statement, the husband. Okay. I did not see how there could be any negativity associated with that. It was just such a beautiful statement.
I think some men, just from like conversations I've had, like men are territorial, right? And you think about being intimate and whatever.
Yes, they are.
And you think about multiple men doing that to your wife.
Yeah.
And maybe you weren't married at the time, but just the thought of knowing what was happening. I think that's where a lot of men that I know are struggling with that piece, because you're like, wait a minute, they did what to my wife? They did that? No, she's got to go. I can't. I just can't wrap my head.
Yeah.
They can't wrap their head around.
No, I think it's a special man that can.
Right.
That's why I do think she hit the jackpot. She got a man who does not associate her worth, her value to him based on her past sexual history. He bases her worth and value off of who she is.
Which is part of that, right?
Yeah.
But
Well, no. That's not a part of who she is.
But I mean, her experiences, but it has shaped, I'm sure, part of.
It's not who she is.
Oh,
it's
as a
what
person.
she did.
What she did,
She did. It is not who she is.
No,
it is not her heart. It is not her soul.
Right.
He sees that.
He sees that piece. Yeah.
So and there,
which is kind of beautiful because again, we all have done things that we're not proud of, and I think if someone can love you despite that. And if you've turned away from those,
despite it,
right, and you've turned from those behaviors, let's keep that in mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because their accountability is
you turn from those
thing.
behaviors, but you love and trust someone enough that you can share those things that you're not proud of with. I personally think that's beautiful, and that creates a strong relationship. So they probably have a very beautiful, strong, loving, trusting relationship. I bet.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to share
I
those
believe
horrific.
they do.
Horrific.
I believe they do.
And then for him to stand by her like he did, and she's had to tell the whole world about those things.
And you know, because I remember when the video first came out, as horrifying as that was.
It was awful.
When P. Diddy made his apology video.
Oh,
I remember
terrible.
having this discussion with my daughters, and they were not about it. So as strongly as I feel,
what do you mean his apology?
His apology just
did they think it was like whatever,
yes,
like you got
like
caught?
most people, it was just they got caught, he got caught, and so he comes out with the apology. I am of a different thought. I felt like anybody who comes and apologizes for something, you deserve to forgive them. Forgiveness is not, I just don't see myself as better than God. So if somebody comes and apologizes, I'm not going to, I'm gonna acknowledge that they came forward and apologized.
I agree with you.
And they weren't having it. They weren't having it.
I think I agree with you as fundamental and being a Christian woman. However, I'm with your girls.
Yeah, right. You watch that video and you're like, I'm not listening to that.
Well, I just felt like I remember watching it thinking, oh, buddy, you're just so sorry I'm disgusted. I don't even remember his words, but I remember he was disgusted. Yeah. Well, you should be disgusted. You're an animal. Like, why would you do that?
I don't know that he even meant it, to be honest.
I feel like he got busted. I agree with you. Now, if his heart was really, truly, I'm sorry, like, not sorry I got caught, but truly sorry and remorseful after seeing himself in that video and was disgusted.
Yeah.
I mean, look, again, you should be forgiven. I agree.
Yeah.
But I'm with your girls. I'm like, look, I mean, the way he treated that poor woman.
Yeah.
But again, hopefully.
It's two separate things.
But
it's
it is because
he
can turn away from his bad behaviors too, right?
I
mean, so give him a little grace too. It's hard.
You know, and he has been locked up. You know, he might be repenting in there and you don't know.
And then people are going to be like, well, he's only doing it because he's busted. You know what I mean? He didn't do it because he really wanted to turn away from the behavior he got. Well, but you know what? Again, it goes back to judging, right? We all have to be responsible for our own selves and are responsible for our own choices. And, you know, when we are making decisions in our own lives and turning away from, we want the same grace.
We do.
And so even though maybe our decisions haven't been quite as bad,
we're going to have compassion.
We have to have
people.
Maybe have a little bit of compassion. And maybe he, you know, he's a father too. So maybe all of this. Yeah, I'm sure he's not real proud to share that with his kids that he's been a part of a lot of this stuff. I mean, I don't know the man, but I would only think, I mean, I know it would be hard for me. I have a son. I mean, you have two girls. Like I'd be mortified. But, you know, but maybe we can have some grace for him too. But
let's just have grace.
Let's just have grace. Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, we just wanted to talk about that and
put our 2 cents worth in.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm sure we'll touch on it again because it's really hot in the news right now. And you know, just wanted to have a little compassion for her, Cassie, just to, because it's just, I don't know, it's just really sad just for everybody involved, I think.
Yeah.
And, you know, most of those folks are grown up now, right? And they probably are not very proud of the choices they've all made too, right? So just as Kim said, have some grace for folks. But thank you for joining us on our next episode of the Pink Dress Effect podcast. We're going to talk about what to do when the bottom falls out. And really it's about finances. And there's a lot of different reasons why that happens. And I look forward to speaking with you about that. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. And we always appreciate y'all's support. Have a great day.
See you next time.